They say family ties are unbreakable. But I learned that loyalty is useless to those who only value what you can do for them. The day my parents told me to leave, I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I didn't even try to defend myself. There was nothing to explain. They didn't make that decision on their own. It came from my sister, the same sister whose education I've been quietly funding behind their backs. They believed they were punishing me. What they didn't realize was that by cutting me out, they were severing the last thread holding their perfect little life together. So I walked away, and I didn't look back as their carefully built world started to unravel. My name is Emily. I'm 26. I used to believe that a family's love had no conditions, that even if I stayed quiet, stayed in the background, even if I wasn't a favorite, they'd still have my back when it mattered most. I don't believe that anymore. For years, I shared a modest 2-bedroom house with my mom, dad, and my younger sister, Mia. She's 18, radiant, talkative, effortlessly likable. Everything I'm not. People were drawn to her the way moths chase light. Teachers raved about her. Neighbors couldn't stop praising her, and my parents adored her like she hung the stars in their sky. Me? I was the afterthought. I worked 2 jobs, one at a neighborhood bakery, the other cleaning office spaces at night. I didn't complain. I helped with chores, bought groceries when money was tight, and covered bills when my dad fell behind. I did all of it quietly. No one ever acknowledged it. No one ever said thank you. But my biggest secret? I was paying Mia's college tuition. Every single month, like clockwork, I transferred the funds directly to her university. My parents believed she won a scholarship, and she never corrected them. I never wanted recognition. I just wanted her to have a shot at something better. I told myself that's what good sisters do. I thought maybe someday someone would see everything I did, but no one ever did. Instead, Mia started whispering lies. Small, seemingly harmless things at first. She told Mom I was distant, told Dad I slammed doors. Then one evening, everything changed. I had just come home from a night shift when I heard Mia sobbing in the living room. Loud, theatrical crying. "I can't live like this anymore," she wailed. "Emily makes me feel unsafe in my own home." I froze in place. I hadn't even spoken to her that day. But my parents didn't ask questions. They didn't want my side. My mom's face was flushed with anger as she pointed toward the front door. "You need to leave. Tonight." My dad didn't say a word. He simply handed me a garbage bag and told me to pack up. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg them to stop and just listen. But I stood there, numb, while the only life I'd ever known fell apart around me. I packed what little I could, some clothes, my work laptop, a folder of important papers. I didn't know where I was going. As I stepped outside into the freezing night air, my mother's final words cut through the silence like a knife. "You're the reason this house has no peace." I sat in my car for hours, parked a few blocks away. My hands trembled, my throat burned, and my heart ached. But amid all the hurt, one truth rose above the rest. They had no clue I'd been the one paying Mia's college fees. And now, I was done. No more explanations. No more trying to fix things. I wasn't going to say a word. I was just going to stop paying. And when that happened, the fallout would be theirs to handle. That night, I slept in my car behind a grocery store where I used to work part-time. It was freezing, cramped, and deeply humiliating. But for the first time in years, I felt something unexpected. Relief. There was no one yelling at me. No accusations. No weight of invisible expectations crushing my chest. The next morning, I drove to Mia's university. I had credentials for the tuition account I'd been using. At the front desk, I stepped up calmly and said, "I'm here to cancel all future payments for Mia Carter, effective immediately." The woman at the desk looked at me, confused. "Are you her mother?" I smiled gently. "No, just someone who finally realized she's done doing favors for people who never deserved them." I walked out of that building with a quiet strength in my chest, and for the first time in a long while, I breathed freely. Later that day, I called Zoe, my best friend since high school. We hadn't talked much recently. I'd been too busy holding my family's life together. But when she picked up, the dam broke. I told her everything. how I was thrown out, how I had funded Mia's education, how I was sleeping in my car. Zoe didn't hesitate. "Come stay with me," she said. No hesitation. No conditions. An hour later, I was wrapped in a blanket on her couch, sipping warm tea while she sat beside me. For the first time in weeks, I felt safe. The days that followed passed quickly. I picked up extra shifts, saved every cent, and finally enrolled in an affordable online event planning course. Something I'd always wanted to do, but never had the time or money for. That course gave me a reason to get out of bed, something to hold on to, something that was mine. Then, exactly a week later, everything shifted. Zoe came through the door holding a sealed envelope. "This came in my mailbox," she said, handing it over. "Looks like it's from the university." The moment I saw the letterhead, I knew it was a notice of payment failure. The letter was blunt. Tuition payments had stopped, and Mia's enrollment was suspended until the balance was paid in full. She was barred from attending classes. I let out a quiet laugh, not out of joy, but out of justice. The very next day, my phone lit up nonstop. Dozens of calls from my mom, furious texts from Mia, and a short, bitter message from my dad that read, "You selfish brat." I didn't answer any of them. I wasn't going back to the place that cast me out without a thought. Not after the way they tossed me aside. Not after they chose her lies over my truth. Let them sit with the consequences. For weeks after, I disappeared. No updates. No explanations. I cut them all off. I blocked Mia's number, then my mom's, and finally, even though I paused for a beat, my dad's too. Just a moment of hesitation. But it passed. And the silence that followed, it felt like peace. While they spiraled, my life began to change. Zoe pushed me to finish my event planning certification, and when I passed, she helped me build a basic website. Then she gave my name to one of her clients who was throwing a retirement party. It was my first real job. I was nervous, but I threw myself into the work, choosing the color palette, setting up the decor, managing vendors, coordinating every detail. So the night went perfectly. When the evening ended, the guest of honor hugged me tightly and whispered, "You made this the most special night of my life." That sentence, it stitched something broken inside me. A few mornings later, while Zoe and I were sipping coffee at her kitchen table, a news alert flashed on her phone. She read the headline, then silently passed it to me, eyebrows raised. Local university probes falsified scholarship files. One student under investigation. I didn't need to read further. I knew it was Mia. After I stopped paying, she must have forged documents pretending she still had a scholarship. But without those regular payments, someone noticed, and the truth unraveled. My parents were probably furious. But here's the part that really made me smile. They still didn't know I was the one who had been paying all that time. I had disappeared from their lives. And yet, my absence was finally louder than my presence had ever been. 2 days after that article went live, I got an email I never expected from the Student Affairs office at the university. They wanted to verify whether I had been covering Mia Carter's tuition for the past 18 months. I wrote back one line. Yes, I was. A few hours later, a second email landed in my inbox, this time from the dean himself. He thanked me for my honesty and confirmed that the university had formally notified Mia's parents. An academic review was underway. I didn't respond again. I didn't have to. The truth had finally made its way home. That evening, Zoe came through the door grinning. "You're going to love this," she said, dropping her bag. "What is it?" "Your mom called my office." My chest tightened. "Why?" "She claimed she just wanted to understand where you went wrong. Then she asked for your address." "What did you tell her?" "Nothing," she said with a shrug. "Not a word." For the first time in months, I burst out laughing, really laughing. Not the tired kind, the free kind. Good, I thought. Over the next few days, emails from my family started flooding in. Some were cold and angry. Others sounded desperate. A few tried to sound sweet and remorseful, but they all had one thing in common. Not a single apology. Even Mia sent a voice note, crying and rambling about how hard life had become. But not once did anyone admit fault. And that's when I knew they didn't actually miss me. They missed a version of me that gave and never asked for anything. They missed the free help, the silence, the emotional punching bag. That girl was gone. 2 months later, I got a call from an upscale venue in the city. One of the guests from that first retirement party had passed along my name. They were hosting a corporate gala and needed an event planner. It was the break I'd been waiting for. I said yes. I worked my heart out and delivered a beautiful, seamless event. That night unlocked everything. Soon, I was getting bookings for weddings, birthdays, charity events. My calendar filled up. Slowly, I built something of my own. Then one afternoon, while adjusting floral centerpieces at a reception, I spotted a familiar face in the crowd. My mother. She stood near the refreshments table, smiling awkwardly. Mia was behind her, shoulders hunched, eyes down, a shadow of her usual self. I stayed focused on my work. I didn't wave. I didn't approach. Eventually, my mom walked over. "Emily," she said gently, almost uncertain. We didn't know. We had no idea how much you did for us. I met her gaze, steady and calm. No, you didn't want to know. You believed the one who cried louder. Her mouth opened slightly, maybe to explain, maybe to apologize, but I didn't wait to find out. I turned and walked away. Later that night, after the event had ended, I sat outside under the glow of fairy lights with a cool glass of lemonade. Zoe came out and settled beside me. "You all right?" she asked. I smiled, taking in the quiet peace around me. For the first time, I said, "Yeah, I really am."